Welcome to Zooming to Webinar Success. If you're needing to plan a virtual meeting and are stuck, this series is for you. Full-time voice artist Grant Holmes is also a busy virtual meeting manager and on-screen host. Learn tips and tricks to having successful virtual meetings from step one. And now, here's your host, Grant Holmes, the webinar guy.
Welcome to episode 24 of Zooming to Webinar Success. Hey, I'm Grant. My clients call me the webinar guy. And today we're going to talk about how to handle hecklers. First off, there's no way to eliminate getting a heckler in your session. As with many subjects I chat about, this one will have a setup and a lot of things to consider. So let's go back to the beginning and think about the purpose of this webinar. If you need or want audience interaction, your audience will need to be able to use a chat function and or be able to unmute their mics at some point and be able to talk. Most webinar and virtual meeting platforms allow you to turn these functions on and off. For instance, in Zoom, you can mute your audience and either allow or not allow them to unmute. So think about how you want this to happen during your session. There is a belief out there that charging for a session as opposed to doing it for free will eliminate the issue. I can tell you that if someone badly enough wants to harass you, they'll find a way. So let's prepare for it. Assume that in any given session you may have one or more hecklers. And by the way, this assumption will save you embarrassment at some point, and being ready for the might happen will serve you well. Step one is to consider your familiarity with the webinar platform that you're using. And along with that, are you using a moderator or not? Depending on the formality of your session and how many attendees you expect to have, you may want to have a moderator that is in your session, if only to monitor chat and remove idiots, or if their mics have been allowed to be unmuted, and you get a vocal heckler, your moderator can pop them out of the session immediately without warning. A lot also depends on the heckler and their goal. As the webinar team does many hundreds of webinars every year, we've seen it all, or so we'd like to think. Sometimes you just have pushy, belligerent people that think for some reason your virtual meeting or training is their playground. Now, just yesterday, I was doing one of my regular sales hosting sessions where we talk about lead generation. We always start with concepts and strategies and how to generate your own leads. And one guy in chat just had to chime in, generate my own. I like working off a client list. Goody for you. Give me a minute and we'll talk about that. But why he thought he had to tell everyone that and what he thought he'd accomplish is well beyond me. What it did do was eliminate him from my client's prospect list of people they might hire. Any salesperson that jumps to conclusions and doesn't listen has already put themselves at a disadvantage. Remember that one. And please forgive my self-promotion here, but I'm pretty good at what I do in moderating and hosting. I've even had webinar attendees put in chat, "He's not really live. This is one of those canned webinars." Imagine their surprise when I call them out. By name. That's right. Using a moderator can really help these kinds of situations. In both examples, I did not have a moderator. They were smaller webinars, and my experience level and how familiar I am with Zoom controls and the way I set my screens to manage things allow me to monitor things in my simpler webinars all by my little self. Now, I want you to consider your personality. How you handle things will mirror your personality and your brand. Yeah, back to your brand. How you handle hecklers reflects not only on you, but on your brand, and in our case, the brands we represent. Now, please allow me to take a moment to promote our sponsor, thewebinarguy.com. Yeah, that's us. Our webinar and virtual meeting team will work with you to produce stellar events, from a few people on a book cover reveal to hundreds of attendees with breakout rooms. We'd love to discuss how to make your event amazing. Thank you. Okay, I began this session talking about the goal of a heckler, if it was conscious. Well, so far, I've really just talked about people that don't think before they type or talk, or they think their opinion matters at some given point. I've had people whine about their sound, even though everyone else can hear me. They can't see my video, but everyone else can. When is the Q&A? At the end, maybe. And my favorite, will this be recorded for us to watch later? Even though the sign-up said it would be. We said it would be in the introduction, and there's a banner crawling along the bottom that says, this will be available later for download. Simply amazing. My personality is one to take control of most any situation I have to. It's what my clients pay me for. And then I eliminate or mitigate the challenge. So on to the bad hecklers, the ones that really have a goal of embarrassing you, or they're going to call you out and try to damage your reputation. Sorry if I'm pounding this, but having a moderator really, really helps. But as I said before, being ready for it and maybe having a couple strategies will really help. So again, ensure you know your webinar control for your platform that you're using. Make sure you know how to mute or remove and block people on the fly. Now, when someone is calling me or my client out, I realize the issue will be a reputation challenge, more than likely. So I have to know and have something ready to speak to that. Now, here's an example. One construction company that I do regular informational webinars for had a guy a few weeks ago turn on his mic, and before I could remove him, you'd be amazed what can happen in 15 seconds. But before I removed him, he swore, used very offensive language, and also called us out for poor quality and more. Well, I removed him. I apologized to the rest of the webinar audience, and then having noted his name on exit, I said, dang, sure wish that Dan had gone to the Better Business Bureau website and looked up our A+ rating. Too bad he missed out on our more than 600 positive Google reviews. And then I used a couple other points during the rest of the session to refer back to Dan and his ignorance. Everyone had a good laugh, and we didn't lose a single attendee. On the fly, sometimes you just need to have something snarky to say, like, I remember the last time my breakfast upset my stomach, or, geez, Karen must be hangry. The biggest point here is to acknowledge it, then move on. Most everyone in a webinar or virtual meeting understands that this can happen, and they'll overlook it. However, not handling it or handling it badly will affect your audience and the rest of the attendance. Know your controls and how to remove and block. I may have said that before. Okay, my really biggest point, never, ever, ever, ever argue or get into a battle with a heckler. It's a race to the bottom, and they'll make sure you lose. The sooner you can remove them from your session and move on, the better. And yes, I remove them and block them without warning, and I don't feel bad about it. I've done hundreds of live sessions where we've been in a hotel conference room or other large venue, and depending on the size of the conference, we usually have one of the production team ready to call for security. Tough to do in Zoom. Well, this series is smaller organizations, built for smaller organizations and solopreneurs that may not be tech savvy. They don't know all the steps or don't want to know all the steps. And over the series, I'm going to lead you through the significant decisions and capabilities you'll need to Zoom to webinar success. And as always, if you need help now, don't hesitate to reach out to Webinar Pro at thewebinarguy.com and visit our website while you can. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear your questions and comments. And if you're listening to the podcast audio, thank you for listening. And, tell a friend.